Sweep. Sweep. What a sweet sweep. No crumbles here. Just sweeping up when the other squad crumbles. Guardians win, sweep the White Sox. We're going to get into how the standings look. We're going to get into the game. We're going to preview the weekend series. But, the big story is this division is very, very close to being in the bag for the Cleveland Guardians. And we'll talk about that on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Guardians. I'm your host, Jeff Ellis, formerly of Scout, formerly of 24/7, now all of Locked On. I do want to take a second and say thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day wherever you get podcasts, and to say that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So let's talk standings. Let's just start standings. By the way, the White Sox losers of 3 straight, of course, after being swept. The Twins losers of 4 straight, and they've been facing. Are they facing Kansas City? It's not exactly like they were facing a high-end squad. This Twins team is falling apart. They're now 2 games under 500, 10 games back for the Twins. Chicago White Sox are a game over 500 and 6.5 back. I feel like they're now showing the that extra half a game for the fact that because it was pure, like they were showing like 5 games, 6 games. They're finally showing that half game because Cleveland has clinched the division over on the MLB side of things. They say the magic number is 6, or the elimination for the White Sox is 6, but I don't think that's true. I think it's 5 because 6 means identical record. Identical record means Cleveland advances. I think their algorithm is still using the outdated numbers. So I think the magic number is 5. Correct me if I am wrong, but I believe it's 5. And that means a combination of 5 wins and or 5 losses. So we can just sit here and start doing a hand count. We're down to 1 hand. Do some hand modeling to talk about how this division is in hand. I know, terrible. What a win by the Guardians. What a sweep. You can go back to Monday's show where that's the my little image for YouTube. It's like, though I had the magic numbers wrong in that one, I'm not going to change it because we make mistakes. Correct me on it. Like, I'm going to give myself credit when I get it right. So when I get it wrong, hey, it's right there. But I did say, hey, when they sweep, it'll be this. And they swept. And like I said, when you won that opening game with Dylan Cease on the mound, every single matchup was getting easier after that. That was the gimme for the White Sox, and they lost the gimme. And from there, they lost them all. Cleveland would be, if the postseason started today, the 3 seed. The only downside to being the 3 seed is you get the Seattle Mariners. They're right now the bottom seed. They're half game behind Tampa. There's a chance that Tampa could... if Cleveland plays well against Tampa, they would then end up facing Tampa instead. Tampa is scuffling of late. I think I kind of would rather face Tampa than Seattle. Seattle scares me, and it's just because they've had Cleveland's number. Like, give me Tampa, give me Toronto, give me either of those teams. Seattle, you need to stop going. Seattle's gone 4-6 in their last 10. They're not helping us out. The upside is Seattle has Kansas City, Tampa, and Toronto play each other. So that is a perfect opportunity for Seattle to move up, and one of those other teams that Cleveland has played well against to move into that spot where that would be who they would get in the opening round of the playoffs. Baltimore's kind of fallen apart. They're now 4 games back of Seattle, and Chicago would be next up at 6.5 games back of the wild card. Cleveland has a .553 winning percentage to Seattle's .550. Just one of those barely holding on to a higher percentage lead, but still, Cleveland has played and continues to play well. And if you're looking at like run differential, Cleveland's 6th best in the American League. The only team that's not in the playoffs right now with a positive run differential, you look at the top, this playoffs teams, those 6 teams we look at who are playoff bound are all positive run differentials. And then Minnesota, the only other team with a positive run differential who's not currently set up to make the postseason. National League, Milwaukee and San Francisco both have positive run differentials and are on the outside looking in. I guess I hadn't checked that recently enough to realize, good on Philly. I kind of left them for dead, and you know what? Right now, they'd be in Atlanta and Philadelphia, along with San Diego. Which again, the White Sox still have to face the Padres, while the Padres are still fighting for their postseason lives. So even if you're feeling a little nervous about anything, just remember, Cleveland faces the Tampa Bay as their most difficult team, where San Diego goes to the Chicago White Sox. Let's talk about today's game, as a matter of fact. Let's start with that one, and then we'll kind of loop back in as everything goes on further in the show today. 4-2 victory. Maybe left Bieber out there a little too long. He goes 7 2/3 of an inning with 5 strikeouts, a little low for the strikeouts, 2 earned runs, no walks, and 7 base runners. Again, Cleveland has issues not walking enough. They only had 1 walk in this game. Andres Gimenez, a bit of a surprise that he is but that's the thing, this whole team, it's a surprise when Rosario has the walk, when it's Gimenez, when it's Oscar Gonzalez. This is not a team that walks. 0 walks on the other side, though. Hedgie, man, I don't know what you do with Hedgie. I still think maybe you bring him back on a cheap deal, or you go out. So I'm trying to remember. I think it was on the long podcast. If you want to go watch the live stream from earlier this week, the extra inning victory affair, that one I talked about the fact that there are many, many really good catchers who don't pan out, and that's why I'm always kind of willing. Catchers are risky at the starting pitchers. I'm always willing to consider trading for one. If you feel comfortable going in with Naylor, you have to bring back Hedges. Listen, if your team has got money, he's the ideal backup. If Cleveland can pay him, does he come back for less than he made this year? He's got a 172 average, a 511 OPS. He might win another Gold Glove. Does he settle for like $3 to $4 million? I don't know. Does he love it here enough? Do they value it enough? It'll be something interesting to pay attention to. In this game, who reached base twice? Well, Naylor had 2 hits. Gimenez had 2 hits. He also had the walk in this one. I don't believe he had any hit batters. So that's it. It's just those 2 guys, Naylor and Gimenez. It's nice to see after Naylor's second half slump that he has definitely been coming out of it, and he likes facing the White Sox. That is for sure. Just to go back to something else I pointed out, I said, Cleveland had the advantage in pitching matchups in 2 out of 3 games. They had the better lineup. They had the better bullpen. And I think we saw that consistently in this series against the Chicago White Sox. Can I make one other comment about this White Sox team? Elvis Andrus. So he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. If you're the Minnesota Twins, do you consider him? Because we know Correa is going to opt out, and the Twins should probably focus more on pitching than another shortstop. But with Royce Lewis's injury, if you need a stopgap, isn't there a logic to Elvis Andrus, solid defender who kills the Guardians, who's the team that he has always hit? I'm just an idea to throw out there. Cueto pitched well, and he has pitched well against Guardians this year. He just didn't pitch well enough. Again, very low strikeout total, just the 1 walk, but the allowed 9 base runners in 6 innings. Bieber, listen, he goes into the 8th inning, gives up, I think leads off the inning with the home run to Gavin Sheets, then gets 2 ground outs, and then a double. Trevor Stephan comes in, gets a strikeout to hold. Clase comes in, 37th save of the year. What a year for him. A 1.37 ERA. So for anyone still pressing about the 3 or 4 in the last 2 months issues he's had, a 1.37 ERA. He's very good. Who didn't reach base in this one? Let's go the other way around. It's Hedges. It's Oscar Gonzalez. Everyone else had a hit. Who are our 3 stars? Well, Gimenez and Naylor, I think, kind of stand out. Gimenez for reaching base 3 times. Naylor for 2 and a double. Quan did have the triple, the only other extra base hit in this game, but I think you got to give it to Bieber. 7 2/3 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, another stellar start. 2.81 ERA. Isn't it? Like I said, what I think makes this team so dangerous on the postseason is having 3 strong pitchers and then a deadly bullpen. Go back to when this team had that killer rotation. Yes, Andrew Miller was amazing. Cody Allen was great. Who else did you trust? Brian Shaw was still good back then. You still had the good version of Shaw, but it was nothing like it is now. It is nothing like this team's current bullpen, current alignment. Just to talk about that bullpen, feel good about Class A. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. 99. He's been, like the 99 of old. Trevor Stephan, greatest Rule 5 draft pick in franchise history. Nick Sandlin. Listen, he's got some control issues here and there, but another guy went to AAA, got straightened out, and has been fantastic. Sam Henches, I believe, still has the best ERA in the second half of any reliever, and he's your lefty. Eli Morgan, 4 or 5 solid starts, relief appearances in a row, looking more and more like what we expected from him. Eniel De Los Santos, I believe the ERA might be under 3, 5 years of team control there. Who are the guys that are left? So Kurt McCarty probably doesn't make the postseason roster, but he's actually not been bad in that long role. He has not been bad at all in the long relief role. And then Brian Shaw, who, listen, if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all, right? So that bullpen, Shaw is the weak link, but the rest of it, I'm feeling pretty good. Morgan's going to make me a little nervous. Sandlin in 99, when there's runners on base, those are guys you want to come in to lead off an inning, not when there's already someone on base, just because Sandlin's walk rates and 99's inability to hold base runner, but they're great to lead off an inning. Use them as effectively as possible. This bullpen is why I think people who are out there saying that this is good lucking eliminating the first round need to take a step back, because bullpens rule the postseason, and the Guardians bullpen rules. We're going to take our first break, come back, and discuss the weekend series and a few more odds and ends on today's episode of Locked On Guardians. Our fantastic sponsor today is BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchup, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. As always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now we should start and see what BetOnline thinks about tomorrow's game for the Cleveland Guardians against the Texas Rangers. I have to think it is going to favor the Cleveland Guardians, because those are two teams that are definitely moving in opposite directions. Things got so bad. The Rangers, I had some shakeups at the top, whereas Cleveland just continues. They're pushed to the postseason. Tomorrow's line is as follows. Cody Morris is plus 1.5 at a minus 210. John Gray is a minus 1.5 at a plus 180. Over-under on that game is 8. I'd be tempted to go with the over, which is currently a plus 100. Go check out BetOnline, one of my favorite sports resource information sites. So I didn't realize until I was getting into it. This is episode 800 of Locked On Guardians. I want to take a second. Thank you, It's Chill Like Cool, for a review, even if it was a 1-star review. I don't think I'm soft or hate on 99. I call him 99 because I have a hard time with names. I've talked about it being part of my disability. I just have a hard time with names, and the more I talk about it, the more people hit me up on Twitter talking about their thing with it. There's a name blindness issue that comes up for many people. I talk about how great he is all the time. I just also talk about the fact that he can't hold base runners. But I feel like, I've been pretty fair with him of late, but I always like how it is to people who get really offended, so mad, who they want to call you soft because your podcast is mean towards the guy they like. And I'm sure your politics have nothing to do with why you like him. So, thank you, Chill While It's Cool. Most people are nice. I'm going to take that moment in episode 800, just be like, listen, we're going to run this show the way we run it. 99 has been an utterly fantastic and central part of this bullpen. In my opinion, the big three of this pen right now is 99, Stephan, and Class A. That being said, it's actually a perfect transition. Sarah's had a great piece over on The Athletic about the rule changes and who it's going to affect. It's kind of interesting going through the list of guys who might have the biggest benefit from the change to hitting. Josh Naylor's name comes up, or I should say the change to the shift and how that's going to affect hitting. though he doesn't make the final list. So they don't really have anyone who's going to benefit, it seems like, a ton just in terms of the shift move. The big names on that one end up being Corey Seager, Leody Tavarez, Matt Olson, Kyle Schwarber, and Max Muncy. The pitch clock is one of the interesting ones, and this is where it gets back to the whole thing. The players most likely to be hurt, 99 is high on that list. He is fourth most likely to be hurt because of just how he goes with his routine. I do wonder if he becomes a trade candidate because he's going to get expensive, arbitration eligible, rule changes, and then just the fragility of his performance the past few years. But right now he's a central part. But the one nice thing is we talked about this bullpen is overflowing. So I'll be curious to see what he comes up there. There's no one who's being helped by the clock. It's just the fans. And then base running with the bigger bases, who could benefit? This is interesting because the Guardians are all over this list. When you're looking fourth, Miles Straw, fifth, Andres Jimenez, seventh, Ahmed Rosario. They might be the only team with 3 guys in the top 10 who are most likely to be helped increasing their stolen base rates than Cleveland. And then none of the pitchers that they have seem to be all that affected by it. So just keeping track at home, new rule changes could potentially benefit Naylor, should benefit Straw, Rosario, and Jimenez, and only player who really gets listed for a hurt is 99. So new rules, fun piece. I'd go read more in depth. I'm sure you can pull even more from this than I would. But yeah, it's one of those things to go through and think that next year with those rule changes, that stands out as something fun and interesting, at least according to how I view it. I thought kind of interesting news across the league. I always like to throw it out there. How about Miguel Andujar being let go by the Yankees? Man, that great year where he finished second in the Rookie of the Year when he should not have finished second in the Rookie of the Year. That was the Ohtani Rookie of the Year. And Joey Wendell was clearly the second best rookie that year. For my money, superior in many, many ways, and Wendell somehow finished fourth because you had both the New York guys ahead of him. Andujar was, it's kind of, if you are someone like me who hosts a show like this, I feel like I spent the last 5 years hearing about Clint Frazier and Miguel Andujar for quote-unquote this Guardians pitcher, this Guardians player, central part of a Jose Ramirez deal, central part of a Trevor Bauer. Like, Andujar had that great breakout year, but shows sometimes you have like kind of one somewhat lucky year and then it just doesn't stick around. He never approached league average after that. Never got a huge look. I mean, 162 plate appearances last year was his biggest look, and he was well below average offensively and defensively. But you always got to be careful. Miguel Andujar is a classic example of a guy who had that year and then, boom, age 23, and since then, now he's designated for assignment. The other side of things, I was kind of having fun today. I was scrolling through some stuff. I had not realized, I was looking at splits data, and it'll never in a million years happen. Okay, let's state that now. But I had some fun thinking about, should the Guardians consider Albert Pujols if he doesn't choose to retire? No, probably they shouldn't, but how about the fact that he's a 92 runs created plus against righties, below average against lefties, a 214 this year. He is Aaron Judge against left-handed pitching, Cleveland's biggest bugaboo. His 19 home runs, I believe, would still be second on the Guardians this year. And, he's sitting there at 698. Let's say he gets to 700 this year. And that'd be, 21 home runs? He would be an interesting sign for any team because he's going to bring out fans. You're talking about a guy who's got a chance to pass Babe Ruth next year. Again, I'm not really saying they should consider it. I'm not saying they would ever do it. But I think for the right team, he's an interesting player to consider because he's going to get guys through the gates. And, man, he murders lefties right now. So I had some fun just digging the numbers with that there. Speaking of digging into numbers, I think we should take our next break here. We talked about, the Ian Oceros piece. We talked about some names and fun. I do want to talk about this again, just in case you missed on yesterday's show. Will Brennan, technically not postseason eligible, but can be made postseason eligible. Anthony Ghost being on the disabled list, being on the 60-day disabled list, essentially means you can go and move someone else into eligibility. You can take Ghost's eligibility and give it to someone else. It's like, I don't know, taking off armor from one character and putting on another in your video game. they can just do it. Or in the OOTP game, it's just moving guys around, dropping someone in the right system. But he can be part of the postseason if they decide to. He is 100% someone who can be postseason eligible if the Guardians decide that they want to do that. So they can only do that for one player, but I believe on their entire 40-man, there's only one player currently who's not postseason eligible, and that's Will Brennan. So everyone else would be eligible, and they have one spot. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Let's take a break and then come back and do our preview for this upcoming series against the Texas Rangers on the 800th episode of Locked On Guardians. Let's talk about these games. So I went through, and specifically when I'm looking at stats to compare these two teams, I'm looking from August 1st. I'm doing a small sample size of a month and 3 quarters to kind of compare. Let's go through position by position. Catcher. So it's a little bit ugly to talk about catcher because during this time we have seen Hedges drop to a 48 runs created plus. It's been pretty ugly since August 1st. We're talking 170, 265, 239. Remember when there was that small window? If you're not watching the show, you didn't see that smile of ugh. But small window when Hedges was actually hitting in August. Well, it was a very small window, and it's done now. But on the other side of things, Texas has actually, had a decent catching situation throughout the course of this year. Man, I didn't realize Mark Matthias has gotten pretty regular at bats for them. He has a 189 runs created plus and a .8 WAR. Sorry, I got distracted by former Guardian. Might get to see him this weekend. But for catcher, it's been Jonah Heim, who they got from Oakland, maybe, in my mind. I could be wrong in that. Let's look at the thing and see. Jonah Heim, a catcher, was originally from Baltimore. And then, that's right, they just had former Guardian Kevin Plawecki, and they also have Sam Huff, who's more of a first base type, but also spent some time there. Heim, over the course of the last month, has a 57 runs created plus, a 4.3 in defense. So both pretty terrible. Does Cleveland get the advantage just because one's defensively solid? Advantage Cleveland. Better defender. You got two guys who have been dog water offensively, and Hedges is an elite defender. Now, first base, Nathan Lowe was a guy I talked about a year ago, as I was saying maybe that's someone the Guardians should try to trade for. Texas had so many first base options. Lowe was interesting. He was having a little bit of a downtime. Well, since August 1st, he's got a 200 runs created plus. He's been worth 2.3 WAR. He's had an absolute exceptional year. Former Tampa Bay prospect. Can't remember what they traded. Brother of Joshua Lowe, who's another prospect in the Tampa system. And overall this year, 147 runs created plus, 25 home runs. Yeah, I wish in this case the Guardians had listened to me. I don't know. We don't even know if he was available. But as much as I love what Josh Naylor has done, Nathan Lowe has been superior at first base. That is advantage Texas. Moving to second base, advantage Cleveland, because they have the best second baseman in baseball right now. Second base, they have Marcus Semien, the highly paid player, and Simeon's been quite good this year, don't get me wrong, and especially since August 1st, he's got a 1.7 WAR, a 130 runs created plus. Other side of things, Jimenez has got a 141 runs created plus and a 2.1 WAR. So Simeon's been great. Jimenez has been consistently better. Shortstop, Corey Seager versus Ahmed Rosario. Seager's better defender and a better bat. Let's just be honest. We can say it and move on. So we are back to a tie score, right? Split the infield, split there. Third base, advantage Cleveland. I believe Josh Jung, the rookie, has been called up for Texas and is manning that position mostly. Interesting young player, former high draft pick, top 10 selection, who has done, I thought maybe had a decent debut, but I'm looking at numbers and maybe that was just in my mind. He's got 82 runs created plus. He's been, hasn't walked yet. So advantage Cleveland, in other words, because again, they have, right now Cleveland might have the best second baseman and best third baseman in baseball. One can make a case. Let's at least put it that way. Moving on into the outfield, Texas's starting center fielder is Leody Tavarez. He is a lesser defensive Miles Straw with the same hitting skills. 61 runs created plus for him over this time period. Straw is actually at a 46, so Tavarez has been better. Now, Straw was atrocious in August. August was actually his worst month of the year. So he is trending upwards, but defensively, Straw's significantly better. So that's advantage Cleveland. And because, again, both these guys, their calling card is defense. Tavarez is another one of those guys that definitely reset how I evaluate prospects, because the numbers coming up were never great, but he was all athletic tool. He was kind of reminded me of Christian Pache. Very seriously. Like, it's like, oh, well, the tools, or Lewis Brinson, like those guys where it's like the tools are going to work out. Eventually, the tools are going to work out. The tools are going to work out. We'll see. Where Miles Straw was just, he's a good athlete. Who knows? And he's now like the same as them. It's the same thing with Brett Phillips, who got let go. Well, there's definitely a type that I am petrified of. Let's be honest, when it comes to player evaluation. Moving on, left field. Bubba Thompson, former first-round pick. Finally getting an opportunity to play. It's been a long road for him to get to the big leagues. Unfortunately for him, he's got 90 runs created plus. Been worth half a win during this time. That's his RBIs. 1 home run. Advantage Cleveland. That's just Stephen Kwan is a pretty big advantage. Adolphus Garcia is, man, he is streaky. He's at a 119 runs created plus right now. We've talked about how he is someone who strikes out a lot, and when he's hot, he is on fire. When he is cold, he is going to make your arm fall off. Remember his big debut a year ago? Well, he ended the year with a 99 runs created plus. This year it's a 113. It's a little bit better. Like I said, currently over the last month or so, he's been close to a 120 with a negative defensive value. During that time, Oscar Gonzalez is at a 128 with also a negative defensive value, but he has been a more consistent hitter. So Cleveland, again, wins the outfield war. So that gives them a 4 spot before you move to DH, which, let's just be honest, DH has been a bit of a mess for both these teams. I'm tempted just to push it out and give no one the advantage. Let's see, the most consistent DH for Cleveland in the past week. Let's see, you got 2 games there. I mean, it moves so much. It's this rotating position. The player who's played the most in last week has actually been Tyler Freeman, who's been okay. Nothing to write home about. The other side of things, Texas is most consistent DH. You got 2 with Mark Matthias. Weird that he gets called up for them or plays for them. It's a DH. 2 to Cole Calhoun. 2 with Josh Smith. No, he didn't. He was left field mostly, but he did get 1 game at DH. Adolphus Garcia got 1 game. They also have it. We're gonna push that one out. It's a rotating door for both teams without a lot of consistency. So a 4-position advantage. Move to the bullpen. We talked about it. Cleveland's got a 3-headed monster with 99, Clase, and Trevor Stephan this year. That is, they're the belle of the ball. It's as good as it gets in baseball. On the other side of things, Matt Moore has been an excellent lefty for them out of the pen. Brock Burke should get more Rookie of the Year love than he's gotten. He's not a top 3 guy. He's not going to win the award, but should he get talked about for the 4th or 5th spot? Yeah, he should. Josh Leclerc has been pretty solid as closer. He's had his ups and downs. It's an okay pen with some interesting pieces. But Cleveland, again, has a 3-headed monster, and then after that 3-headed monster are about 4 more guys who are above league average to pushing to join the Hydra at the back of the pen. That's it. It's a Hydra, straight on. It's a 3-headed, cut off 1 head, 2 more grow type of deal is what it feels like if you were facing that bullpen. So that's advantage Cleveland. And then starting pitching, Martin Perez has been great. John Gray has been okay. Lennott, who they got from the Yankees, did he come over in the Gallo deal? Cole Ragans, the former first-round pick. Dane Dunning from the White Sox. I really liked the Lance Lynn deal because I really liked Dunning at the time. They're passable, but and especially when you get into these individual matchups of Gray versus Morris, maybe I give that one to Texas just because of the experience that Gray has, the ups and downs. But Quantrell versus Ott should be advantage Cleveland. Dragons versus Savali should also be advantage Cleveland. And then after this series, we have the off day Monday. Texas is not a great team. They're currently sitting at 65 and 84. I'm going to pause real quick. They would have the 11th pick in the draft if it happened today. They are currently half a game up on the Los Angeles Angels and the Chicago Cubs. So very close to those, very close to getting up there. A game and a half behind Colorado for the 8th spot. If you're curious about the Central, Detroit would pick 4th, Kansas City 7th, Minnesota 14th right now, based on the way things have gone. Washington Nationals kind of running away with the Dylan Cruz sweepstakes. So yeah, it's not a great team. There is a chance for the Guardians to just clinch the postseason this weekend. It could happen. Not sure who the White Sox, I think, have the Tigers, so it's not very likely, but it could happen. So keep your eyes tuned or peeled for that. Definitely something to check out. I've been Jeff Ellis, episode 800. We'll have information on the co-host. They're signed, sealed, and delivered, and coming soon. If you would love to subscribe on YouTube, write a review on iTunes. The funny thing with the iTunes reviews is any of them help. So literally, a good one, a bad one. They say that just having numbers is the important thing on there. And, in terms of the YouTube, we're in the 600s. Getting to 1,000 helps us monetize. So if you get subscribed there, I would much appreciate that as well. 800 episodes. It's a lot. It's hard to believe. I'm just kind of sitting here going, wow, 800 of these. And every single one I have been the editor for. I've had co-hosts, but I have been the editor, hoster, runner of this channel for 800 plus episodes. If you've gotten a little bit of enjoyment out of it, please go subscribe on the YouTube. Because again, getting to 1,000 would mean the world to me. I mean, it might only mean like 10 more bucks a month, but 10 more bucks a month over the course of a year, it's $100. That's helpful. Every bit helps. I think we all know that. And as how I end every show, go Guardians, go.